Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook? Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Fleet Geeks podcast. I'm joined today by a very excitable and really pleased to see and be part of the podcast, Pam, who joined us on last week's podcast. She's actually giving me the middle finger at the moment because I think it's fair to say that podcasting is probably not her favourite activity. She's giggling away in the background going, thanks, Pete. Pam, it's a pleasure to have you on. I thought you were amazing on the first one. I think you did an amazing job. And I think you're going to do a fantabulous job of this one too. So after we've clarified exactly what I asked, because I can be a nightmare with asking questions I don't really mean and not really wording them properly, so I take full ownership for that. Excuse me. But I asked Pam to prepare 5 areas of non-compliance that she sees most for her customers that she goes to see or operators that she deals with or has dealt with in her recent history. So obviously we're not going to mention any names or anything like that. So if you're listening thinking, oh no, am I top of the pops? Don't worry, you're not going to be named in this. We're going to keep it totally confidential. But if it resonates, then we can't help that. We can't help that. We're just spitting facts here. So Pam, what is up? Number one, or let's start with, let's go number one. So tell me, what out of the 5 things, what was the first thing that you find is a common non-compliance for customers, and how do we go about sorting it?
The biggest one I'd probably see most often is working time directive infringements.
Right, okay.
Mainly the 6-hour rule.
Okay.
Primarily in the afternoons.
Yep, okay.
So drivers are great taking their first break within the time, and then forget that they need another one if they're going to carry on working over 6 hours till they finish their shift. Yeah,
okay. And that's regardless of industry, it's just a universal
it's across
challenge.
the board. Yeah.
And was that an issue for you even back in your employed roles before you came to Flagship? Had you come across sort of those issues amongst drivers and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's one of those, I think, they're so easy to miss. In the afternoon, especially if they're getting back to a depot and they've got to load up. Yeah. They forget to factor in the time. Yeah. For that before they take the card out.
Yeah, just in a rush to get done.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Is that ultimately, particularly if you're not following these issues up effectively as a transport manager from a compliance perspective, drivers will probably just go, well, working time, it doesn't really matter, and I'm just going to finish a bit sooner, and it feels almost like it feels like such a inhibition for them to do it, doesn't it?
Oh, it's only working time.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, cool. So there's a bit of a reminder there for us to make sure that we really do clamp down on that, make sure that we do hold people accountable. How do you go about improving that? Would you say?
Again, I think it's a training issue. I think, and just regular reminders. Maybe get them to reschedule their breaks so they're not taking the first one so early. Tend to find for the drivers who do a bit more distance, there's a tendency to get somewhere early and have a first break before they go and tip. Yeah. They're more likely to come across it because they've taken their first break so early on in the day. Okay. Whether or not they then take a different break afterwards or leave slightly later, but then obviously you hit more traffic, so there's always...
And when you talk about that in driver CPC, what do drivers say much to you? Do they sort of have a little whine about it, or what's the sort of general theme you get?
It depends sort of what industry they're in. So if you get the guys who are going into London, they're like, well, we need to have a break before we go in because otherwise we're going to get a driving infringement while we're in London. Yeah. Because you can't get in and out necessarily in the time. Yeah. A lot of them begrudge taking another one because it's extending the day. Yeah. But again, if you include the working time infringement in any TACO infringement process you've got, they do certainly soon come around to the way of thinking, because they don't want to end up with warnings or disciplinaries for working time breaks. So.
Yeah, so it's really key to make sure that it's properly.
It's putting as much importance on the working time as it is driving time.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool, amazing. So that's number one. What's number two for you?
Probably lead-in times.
Okay.
Drivers not showing work on their tacho for sufficient time to do their walk-round checks.
Okay.
Again, there's another big one. See if they get pulled, they need to have shown that they've got adequate time. And there's so many where you're just seeing 2 or 3 minutes.
Yep.
And it ties in with how long they're doing it on the apps as well. So,
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the apps do time how long a walk around check will take. And for you, what's your sort of having driven as well? What sort of guidance do you give? Because the DVSA don't actually really tell you what it should be.
No, there is no.
What's your thoughts around the length of time for a walk around check?
You need to be shown at least 10 minutes, really.
Right,
I mean, I think they normally say between 10 and 20, but I'd say at least 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then you're right. I mean, I have known drivers who've taken 40 minutes to do them, but we pointed out to them you could do an MOT in that time.
Yeah, of course.
But, so there is one extreme to the other.
Okay, cool. And then what do you think about how, depending on how if that vehicle is multi-shifted and maybe it's been driven before, then you'd spend a bit more time with it. And if it was your vehicle and you know that it's been parked up overnight, maybe you know what's up. So
exactly. So if it's your truck that you're allocated to day in day out, then you're going to spend 10 minutes. If it's like you say double shifted and somebody else has been it overnight, you're going to spend longer.
Fair enough. And okay, cool. So lead in, lead out time. So you're looking for at least sort of 10 minutes if you can on the tacho when they first start. Then how do you find that is picked up? So when you raise that with people, do you get any pushback? What are the challenges you get with that?
Doesn't tend to be a lot of pushback. I think there tends to be my immediate response from especially drivers is, well, does it matter? Well, I'll put my card in and I'll go and get a cup of coffee, shall I? And they're just sort of some of them trying to fill out the time, shall we say.
Yeah, got you. And do you think that drivers, this is an interesting one because you drove yourself as well, do you think drivers are properly, despite CPC and driver inductions and things like that, do you think there's still, with some drivers, there's a lack of knowledge around what it is they should actually be checking on their walk-around check? Do you think that is an issue, or do you think they know and they're just being ignorant, if that makes sense?
I think there's probably a lack of knowledge in a lot of cases, depending on the type of work the vehicles do as well. I don't think drivers would be aware to check springs that you can visually check. Mm-hmm. They're things that often go if the vehicle's doing any off-road work. Mm-hmm. But I think there's also a lack of knowledge sometimes about what constitutes a defect. Okay. So I've had one example where it wasn't defected because the driver then didn't take it out on the road.
Hi, I'm Shani from Flagship Partners. We're proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast, your go-to source for all things fleet management. If you're looking for expert advice or high-quality training for your fleet business, make Flagship Partners your first choice. We're also thrilled to announce the launch of our Fleet Academy, designed to support and develop future fleet leaders through expert-led and career-focused training. Our offering includes fully accredited courses such as the Transport Manager CPC training, CPC refresher courses, OLAT training, plus ongoing mentoring, support and professional development beyond the qualification. Our vision is simple: to develop elite fleet professionals who drive excellence across the industry. Let's shape the future of our fleet management together.
Right.
So he felt he didn't need to defect it because
it was VO. They'd essentially VOR'd it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's no paper trail for the defect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a challenge, getting people's head around that stuff. Okay, fair enough. Cool. What have you got for number 3?
What have we got on number 3?
What have you got for number 3?
Probably following on from the last point, really. It's, again, about what is defect and defects that aren't picked up that are then found on PMI.
Okay.
So, the driver reportable ones that haven't been put through on the app. And then, of course, there's no investigation or anything as to why the driver hasn't picked it up.
Okay. So tell me about how you find that then. So tell me about the process you follow with a client when you look at this stuff.
So when with a client, we'll be looking at their inspection sheets, whether we're uploading them from one system to another or just doing a QA on them. We'll look at the defects that were picked up as to anything should have been picked up by a driver. Not necessarily looking at things like bulbs, because we all know the thing where you can turn a light bulb one day and it works and the next day it doesn't.
Yeah.
But things like wipers that aren't clearing windscreens, side marker lights, things like that really should have been picked up on a daily walk round.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's that's a big challenge. I see that being a big challenge. So you pick it up as you go through the inspection sheet with the transport manager or whoever's sort of heading that side of the administration up, and then what are your thoughts on about how we try and tackle that? How do we try and then overcome it?
There needs to be a process where the drivers are spoken to and put in the process gone with them and asked why they haven't picked it up or why it hasn't been defected, and they should all be logged as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously, again, it's that paper trail to prove that if an insufficient check's been carried out, you need to document that you've done any training or had those conversations. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, cool. So that's number 3. We're on number 3, are we? What's number 4? What have you got for number 4 for me?
Again, we're going on from the PMI sheets, and when they come back, obviously by now they should be accompanied with a roller brake test.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of lack of understanding as to whether they're actually sufficient to meet the requirements.
What, the actual roller brake test itself? Yeah, okay.
Actually reading the result sheets, if you like.
Yeah, sure. So, absolutely. Like a lot of mechanical workshops are sending it back passes because the test machine says they've passed, but actually maybe they're not the right weight, and maybe they're insufficient load, maybe the axles are incorrectly loaded, or maybe there's brake imbalances that are still coming back as a pass, and that sort of stuff is a challenge. Are you finding that's just generally an educational issue?
Yeah. I've had a couple where I've had to go back to the main provider and say, are you sure this is insufficient weight? Because one of the front axle wasn't up to the required weight, things like that. So, I've also had them come through where they've got a different DTP number on, so on the brake test compared to on the plate. So obviously if that doesn't match, you've got a problem because it might actually not be relevant to that particular braking system for the truck. Sure. And they don't always get checked.
Sure, yeah. So cross-referencing the DTP number to make sure it's correct, Okay, that makes...
It's surprising how many of them you actually pick up on.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the maintenance providers, they populate it at the start when they first start doing it, and every time the vehicle goes in, it's using that same pre-populated information. So of course, if the first one was wrong, everyone
continues to be wrong. And the excuse from the mechanic will be, well, that's the one that was used last time. Yeah, it makes total sense. Challenge that, innit? And that's often one of the reasons why we see the brake test, that there's a difference in brake testing between that and what goes on for MOT, for example, as well, can sometimes be a challenge. Good. Okay. Cool. So that's 4. So we're up on the last one. Talk me through the last one.
Oh, the last one. What should we go for? Not getting maintenance records back on time.
Right. Okay.
So obviously the latest GTMR says that before a vehicle is put back in service, you need to have that declaration to say it's roadworthy.
Sure. And
if operators aren't getting those records back before they put the vehicle back on the road, then it doesn't comply.
No, there's a risk there, isn't there? And I think it's an age-old challenge, certainly, and I've been on both sides of it, making sure that the technicians have properly done all their paperwork and stuff like that. Generally, technicians don't become technicians to do paperwork and to sign off sheets and stuff like that, and then it needs counter-signing by a supervisor, and the supervisor's off, and just some people's working practices are delaying this process, aren't they? Yeah. And that's a challenge. So
what we've started doing with some people there is when the vehicles are dropped off, they get a declaration taken with them. Okay. So that when the keys are handed back, the declaration's signed off and give them back with the keys. So they've got that same declaration that's written on the PMI sheet, but in advance of the actually full paperwork coming through. So at least the maintenance provider are giving the insurance it is roadworthy.
Sure. So is that like a separate piece of paper that they get in just with the vehicle reg, technician's name and a signature to say we inspected it this day and it's good to go?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a good way round, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good way round, just leaving that in the car.
Yeah.
So that's really down to enforcing an additional process from the maintenance provider, isn't it?
Yeah, we haven't received any pushback on that process yet, so from anybody.
And is that something you're finding is commonly a challenge that isn't happening for many operators still?
Yeah, there's still a lot of delays in paperwork.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's I think that therein lies one of the biggest challenges, I think, for transport managers is managing those relationships with your maintenance providers.
The
really,
MPRS
really
will be
tricky.
good when that comes in to be more widespread. Yeah, I think it should help immensely because there's that standard there that people are going to want to achieve.
Yeah, do you think there's going to be much uptake with that?
I think, funnily enough, it seems more interest from a lot of in-house maintenance providers because they can apply for it as well.
Yeah.
And I think for companies who want to be compliant, by putting their own in-house workshops through it, it shows that they're trying to set the standard.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like when we were, where were we last week? Oh, I think it was at the road safety conference.
Oh, yeah.
The DVSI guy there who was speaking said that although there's different levels, bronze through to platinum, you don't need to go for platinum. You need to go for the level that suits your operation. So if you're not running hydrogen vehicles, you don't need to worry about going for platinum.
Sure.
But in-house providers, if they even go for the bronze, it shows that level of commitment.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So just go for the level that's necessary for you. And actually, some of them some of it's not too laborious, is it? A lot of the alternative fuels and safety related stuff makes it a bit more challenging. Fantastic. Pam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing those 5 key tips for improving non-compliance or common non-compliance issues that occur, if I made sure that I asked the right questions. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining me. I think the listeners will have found that really valuable. There's definitely some little golden nuggets in there hidden away for them to find. So really appreciate it and appreciate the tips. Fleet Geeks, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've got any comments, if you are a consultant as well and you find different challenges, then please do drop those in the comments. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you next week on the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Speak to you soon. Cheers, Pam. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.